frankly, an indoor sports arena, either a bubble. Bubbles have gotten much better. Initially, I said no to the bubble. I know a bubble blew down at Eastern Michigan at one point. I said, I don't want any part of that.
It took like a year and a half to put back up.
Yeah, right.
It was crazy.
We moved quicker at Adrian. Our bubble ever blew down.
Yeah.
But these
I never had to tell my dogs that we on road for greatness. They paper getters, they want money more than they want fame shit. I swear we go so hard, we on A-list.
Sometimes it's hard in sports to like realize how far you've made it, like when you're in it, because like even obviously being in the ECHL, but like even with me, like when you're in it, you see how much farther you have to go, and obviously there's politics when you get into professional because the money's gonna play. And I was telling them, it's like when I was doing it, I was like, I felt like I didn't accomplish anything, but like now kind of being removed from it, I'm like, even and we were talking, and like even having a good college career like puts you at the top, like
For sure.
D1, D2, D3,
Yeah.
like it's still. And then like Doc said, like he's like, there's real players here, and I was like, especially at hockey, right? Just because there's no D2 level.
There's players. There's players at
Yeah.
Adrian College. There's some absolute players.
100%. You know, I think that you guys want this. I mean, I think that really the drop off on the third and fourth line maybe a little more than at the D1 level, but these guys and a lot of these guys have played D1.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not. You can't take anything away from the athletes that we have at our level.
No, that's exactly right what you said. The depth is what would be the difference, and it's like the top team depth, because realistically, Adrian would beat bottom 25 of
and has beaten.
It has beaten, right?
It's not even
I mean,
speculative.
it's not even exactly, and it's like I mean, even like Team USA. You know what I mean? Those guys are first round draft picks, top of the line schools, and they're not just going there to sit; they're going there to play.
Well, I was looking at their record when they came in. There was something like, this is a bit, subject to memory, but they were like 14-4 something against D1 teams this year, and then we beat them.
Yeah,
You know?
it's that. And I'll be honest with you, I've talked to kids that play on USA. We're the team they don't want to play. Like when we would come, because it's like when they play D1 teams, it's like an outskill fest. They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna outskill them. Yeah. When Adrian plays them, we're like, no, we're gonna try to bully him.
Yeah,
like they're like our little brother. Like they're our little brother. We're gonna beat them up, and it's just like that's how it has to be.
Does that game matter to you when you play Team USA? Like, does that, like, even though it's exhibition, right? It doesn't actually go to your record. Like, is that a game where you circle on your calendar like every year? You're like, I want to win this game.
100%. It feels anything but exhibition. I mean, I'm focused. I want to win it just as bad as every league game, And the reason why is I think it A, shows where we're at, but B, brings credibility to our program. Absolutely. You know, when they go up to play Michigan or Michigan State or Wisconsin or Minnesota, those players also are looking to see how they did. And they're reading Adrian, and they're going, holy smokes, Adrian beat this team?
Yeah.
You know, so it shows where we're at.
Absolutely. So, President Docking, you started in 2005?
2005, that's right.
What's the
But hold on, before we go into that, like, give us some background. What were you doing before 2005 when you took over as president of Adrian?
Well, it depends how far you want to go back. I mean, right before I came to Adrian, I was a vice president and special assistant to the president at a school called Washington and Jefferson College, just south of Pittsburgh, very similar to Adrian, about the same size, real old school.
Yeah.
And so came from a school very similar to Adrian.
Right. And so when you came to Adrian, like what did it look like? Because from what I've heard before you came, it was like ghost town type.
Yeah, I remember a guy told me who actually was in the symphony. He said, no one's here on weekends because the symphony plays on weekends, and there's like not a light on in any dorm rooms. Like everyone just takes off. You know, it's depressing.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think we'd gotten down to about 840 students that year. Yeah. We only had 1,100 kids apply. Now it's closer to 5,000, 5,500. A lot of leaky roofs, a lot of dandelions. Morale was bad. Pay was real bad. I think we're the second lowest paid school in the MIAA in terms of what faculty made. And, it wasn't good. I mean, they were going down what we called sort of the circular drain. I mean, it was just feeding on itself in terms of kids coming, kids leaving. I think 59% of the kids on the football team left before they graduated back then. And that was a big draw for us. So point is, You had to drive by a lot of cornfields to get to Adrian, and the town wasn't real great back then. It's gotten a little bit better, a lot better, actually, I think.
I would say a lot better.
Yeah, I would too. There wasn't even a restaurant that I could find.
For sure. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, I think it kind of went out from the campus out, you can tell, because Adrian arguably has one of the most pretty campuses, and even just like the addition that you guys just did, like that little I don't know what you call it. The arch.
Yeah.
The arch. Like things like that. It's just like there's things that you remember when you go on the campus, like the arch now, the pink flowers. It's just like the little things that are just like, it's one of the cleanest looking campuses you'll ever see. And I just think that when I first originally saw it, like when I was a kid, I don't remember it being like that at all. And I just think that like how far it's come is kind of crazy. And I want to say like so when you came in, you know, it was on the down. What was kind of like the first things that you were like, I'm going to fix X, Y, and Z? Like, what was the first things you were thinking?
Yeah, well, I'll answer that, but let me just say you're exactly right. Building on your last point, I was just talking to Matu Spodniak last night, current player, and he said that he knew he was coming when he looked at the way that we mowed the lawns.
For sure.
You know,
it's so true.
Does
matter.
So
true. It does matter.
It does matter.
Yeah, Luciani said he got in the car with his mom after his recruiting visit, and she said, "This is where you're going. Look at the way they take care of the place."
Before I let you answer, I went on a few visits. Adrian was like, when I first heard of the school, I only had been when I was a kid. I was like, I don't want to go. My dad's like, no, you got to go. It's a nice school. I went and visited, and it was the last school I visited, and I was like, you know what? This is where I'm going, because it was like everything is new, nice. It's just like, and it's got a good vibe, like everything about it.
I'm with you. And my thing is, you know, you take care of the little things.
For sure.
Then people say, okay, if they're cutting the lawns that way and pulling the dandelions,
for sure.
Then the big things, you know, people assume you're really going to take
care
of them.
Absolutely.
So it makes a statement.
No, it does.
So yeah, I meet with the plant department once a semester, buy them lunch, and I always tell them, you wouldn't believe how many kids you bring in by the way you clean these lobbies and take care of this campus.
It really matters.
But the point to your question about what were the first things I took care of, honestly, whether you're in higher education or you're in business or working in the church, my first thing is take care of the money.
For sure.
And if you can take care of the money, then about 80% of your other problems go away.
Right.
And so we were hemorrhaging. I mean, we were doing about $1.5 million a year in red ink.
Right.
We had barely a $20 million endowment. And I said, money here translates into tuition, room, board, fees.
Right.
We got to get bodies.
For sure.
You know, the State House doesn't write us a big check like they do at Western or Michigan State or Central if we come up short. I mean, we needed dough. Yeah. And so with 3,000, colleges in the country that kids have to choose from. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of options.
There's a lot. Yeah.
We said, what would make a kid go to Adrian?
Yeah.
Spend the kind of money for a private education. And it was really a sort of a business decision that played on sort of the innate desire in human beings to compete, honestly. And I said, we've taken care of the inside the classroom stuff. I mean, I think the classes are good. I think the professors care.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if kids are willing to put in the effort, the profs will do anything to get them through to graduation.
Absolutely.
And I said, but that's the same at a whole lot of those 3,000 schools. But if we can create an unbelievable experience outside the classroom and tap into that human desire to compete, then we can get a lot of kids to say, well, I could go to State, could go to Western, could go to Central, could go to a lot of other schools. Yeah. But at Adrian, I can do this.
Right.
And this is what we really focused on. So my first obviously, was an ice arena. Because I grew up playing hockey. I knew the culture. I knew the sport. They're the kind of people I wanted to bring to the place. And I still remember when I told the Board of Trustees, I said, we got a plan. Plan's expensive, but I think it's going to work. It's the only plan I've got. Because I had been there like 4 months. There's an upside and a downside. Upside, I got a plan. Secondly, it's the only plan I got. and so
burn the boats.
What's that?
Burn the boats. Only one plan.
That's right.
Go forward.
That's right. All in. Right. All Texas Hold'em. I think ESPN. This is it.
It paid off.
It
paid off.
And I said, we're going to build an ice arena. And I didn't know this at the time, but the board chair leaned next to the assistant board chair and said, who's going to tell the new guy we're not building any ice arena? But they let me go through with it. And
what was that process? Can you dig into like that little process? Because I've heard like the original plan that was like maybe it's gonna be a pool or whatever. And I've heard a couple other. I want to hear like what was the actual to like bring the team, and like you said you got it by the board, but like what was the initial like plan of like we're gonna do this? How did you become and like fund that? Like, can we go into that at all?
100%. It was a super data-driven plan.
Yeah.
it was a plan where I said, okay, how many kids do we have? And like I said, it was 840.
Yeah.
And I was making, I should say, the college was making about $15,000 a kid back then.
Yeah.
Tuition, room, board, and fees. So I went into the CFO's office and I said, hey, man, I've only been here a couple of weeks, but how many students do we need here to like keep the lights on, pay the bills, right? I mean, there's a number,
yeah,
right?
There's got to be, yeah.
And he did some math and he said to pay salaries, give everybody a raise every year. He goes, you need 1,400 kids.
Yeah.
And so it was like, all right, well, I'm at 840. So how am I going to get to 1,400 every single year?
Right.
Right. And so I said, all right, well, look, if I build an ice arena, I can get, 10 kids a year for NCAA hockey men, NCAA hockey women, ACHA, and synchronized skating. So there's 40 kids right there.
Right.
Right. So now then I said, okay, well, no one has lacrosse in Michigan at the time. Literally, like nobody had NCAA varsity lacrosse.
Yeah.
And we looked at the high school level, and there were 21,000 kids playing lacrosse in Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana.
That's wild.
And I said, if I can't get like 30 kids right out of 21,000, something's wrong here, right? So
we got bigger problems at that point.
So I hired a coach. I said, look at buddy. I said, I hope you win a national championship.
They were really good back in the day, weren't they?
Oh yeah. At one point they were like 46-0 or something in league play.
Yeah, they were really good.
Hey. I was getting coached. But anyway, so we did that with every sport. We did it, and we did it with some non-sports. I mean, this compete thing. I said, there's a lot of kids that love marching band.
For 100%.
Sure.
No,
absolutely.
absolutely.
High school, they love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they're chilling. Going to band camps, competing with others. So we started a band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And on and on and on. Bass fishing. It's now turned into cornhole.
Huge,
52 teams.
It's crazy.
Each team.
52 teams.
52 teams.
Holy shit!
Every single team.
Wow.
That's why it's.
But that's important. But that's important though
huge.
for I think any school, and I say that to say this because, like at Eastern, right? When I was there, they actually dropped like 3 or 4 sports, but they had the most sports teams in the MAC at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've always thought about it because at that university, there's always like kind of butting heads between like the students and the athletes, or the students hate the athletes because they take money away from the students. But at a school, the sports drive everything. Mm-hmm. Like you're only a couple good years in football, basketball, even like baseball, hockey. If the school has it, from really like raising tuition. And speaking about, we're in March. Like March Madness drives tuition for a lot of these schools.
For
like
sure.
FAU's in the Final Four. Their tuition, room and board will explode next year.
Yeah, so with their applications.
For sure.
I just heard the other day they're already up like 30, 35%.
Exactly. Yeah. It happens every March.
That's insane.
It happens every March, so it makes sense. But Joshua kind of, I don't know if the story's rumored. The story's rumored, but I want to hear it.
Sure.
For Arrington Ice Arena.
Yeah.
Was that a private donor who paid for that?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Robin Arrington, God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago. He honestly, and I think he would laugh at this if he was alive, he didn't know whether a puck was made out of rubber or wood. But he loved the plan. It was a business plan. He was a doctor. He was a real smart guy, and he understood we needed to bring in revenue. Yeah. And I said, Robin, if we build this rink, I'm going to put up pictures of every single team that we have. And you may know this, from when you walk through, same you, Zach. When you walk in, all those pictures are kids that I don't think would give us a whiff without that arena. Mm-hmm. And that number now has grown to like 330 students.
For sure.
You start doing the math. Now, we didn't have to pay for the arena because he donated, over half of it. Then we raised the rest of it from some other donors. But, that arena paid off itself in 2 years. Yeah, with
2 years from building it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dude, that rink from literally 5 a.m. till 11 p.m. at night is nonstop. Like that is the attraction. Like there's so many things, like the baseball field, beautiful. Football field, Marilot, beautiful. But like hockey, like people go in there like this is like the vibe. They got the bar up top. That's what we were just saying. We were like, we wish Adrian was hosting this weekend.
Oh yeah. What we did for women a few years ago was fantastic.
It was huge. I remember that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And remember, it's 7 teams.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot. It's a lot.
What's wrong with that? I mean, kids want to play sports and do something they love for 4 years beyond high school, and I don't apologize for it. I mean,
absolutely
people
not.
Look down their nose at times and go, "Oh, you got an Olympic Village here," because like 72% of your
it
students
kind
are
of
athletes.
is.
I'm like,
it really is. Like when I was there, sorry to interrupt. when I was there, it was like when we would hang out with people, it was like, oh, what team are we hanging out with? It wasn't like, oh, like it was literally like, what teams do we want to hang out with? And it was like, it's very interesting. Like it was like Olympic Village-esque because it is. It's all student. It's all everyone there. If you go to Adrian and you don't play a sport, you're like in the anomaly of like, there's more people that do than don't. So
it's over 70%, man.
Yeah.
And I heard
that's high. That's crazy.
That is high. In most schools, everyone will say when they meet people freshman year, the question is, what are you majoring in?
Yeah.
At Adrian.
Yeah, it's like,
what
team are you on? What team are you on? And then they'll be like hockey. They're like, no, what team are you on? I want to know what team you're on. But it's true. That's
the currency.
Yeah, it is. Currency. But it's kind of cool that it's like that. And I actually do like the fact that we have so many good teams, but everyone's very supportive of the teams. Even the hockey teams, like the NCAA team and the ACHA team, like both of them want each other to win. They both want success. Same with every other sport, like baseball. Like we go to couch day and stuff. It's like they want to see the other teams
100%,
win, which is,
man.
That's a good.
100%.
Everyone can be competitive, but it's in the sense of like that men's NCAA hockey team won. Now it's like the women's team like, no, like we need one now, and then it's like the baseball team like we haven't been to a World Series in a minute. We need to be there. So it's like it's definitely a good to have.
Doc, talk about the culture that's at Adrian that you've helped build, because I think I would say majority of success comes from like creating a good culture. What is the culture that you've wanted to create in your time here, and that like you think has come from it?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the problem that I think a lot of schools make in building culture is, especially when they start really needing to get more students, they try to be all things to all people. And so they say, oh, today we're, this, and tomorrow we're that, and we have something for everybody. And and what we said is, no, we're not big enough, we're not rich enough to do that. We got to be comfortable in our own skin. And so when we were building the culture, obviously we were, we built a culture around wanting to bring in students that were gritty, because I think athletes are gritty. I think we wanted to build a culture where results matter, that it wasn't just about sort of someday gonna excuse victim mentality, we got shafted, whatever. No, it's like if we didn't get it done.
Absolutely.
One time my assistant vice president came into my office. This was fairly early on. I think I was 2 or 3 years in, and he said, hey, what's your philosophy of administration? And I said, I don't even know what that question means, John. What's that mean? I thought about it for a minute. I said, honestly, I think it's just tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just come out with it. And I think human beings have an amazing ability to figure out phonies early on.
100%.
I mean, we've evolved that way, right? I mean,
for sure.
If you didn't figure out the phonies back in the day, you're getting eaten by the wild beast or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So, and so I think when people come in, we just tell them, look, I say things like we're a patriotic school. Yeah. The flag matters. We've got a wonderful country here. We got to be proud of. It's not perfect. I get that. But, I like to have an American flag on campus. We're a school with religious roots, Christian roots. And so the idea that, hey, there's things bigger than ourselves out there that we should think about during these years.
100%.
People matter. Students first. We got to try to be kind when we can. And yet we should also know that winning matters.
Yeah.
I tell students, I say, if you're in second place for that job that you want, you're just back out on the market handing out resumes. If you come in second place for that girl you want to marry, that's it, baby. You're going back to the bar,
exactly.
right? I mean, come on, or the dating websites, which I never use, but I find folks.
They're bigger now.
But they're huge now.
Okay.
But you're not wrong. Winning matters. I think that's kind of almost been uninstilled in like younger generations. It's like, oh yeah, like everything's okay, and I think that's something that we are lacking as a society now. That we need to be competing more with each other.
I could not agree more. Yeah. Oh, and when we had that pandemic racing
Absolutely.
through, we wanted someone to win that challenge to find a vaccine.
For sure.
I mean, if think about Absolutely. It. It was like, well, if we get it, great. If we don't get it, that's the way it goes. No, you need to win.
Absolutely.
You need to find out what vaccine works. You're saving lives.
And I want to give you flowers because I was at Adrian College during the pandemic and my last 2 years, and I will say flowers to you for keeping that open for everyone, because that was something that like was important to us. And I mean, I look at like other colleges that closed down their doors for 2 years or whatever it was, and like how much further back they are now from like Adrian College, where we did everything to the book. Like, I mean, I got tested every day almost.
Yeah.
Like it was done to a T. It was done the right way, but it was like we were still allowed to be kids. And it's like Adrian was in its own bubble. Like we were all together every day. It's like when you're in that, it's like we weren't doing anything wrong. And it's like we got to actually experience our last 2 years where we should have been, right? Like we should have been. And everyone went through the right steps. Like we all followed the right lines. Like you should be able to be a kid. You should be able to have fun. You should be able to have your last 2 years of a sport and, not be taken from it.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I think what really was the difference maker for me saying, you know what, we're going to keep this open. You may remember I went to every locker room with every team. I said, get as many games as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't care if you're playing D1 teams.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had half our schedule was D1 games because D3 teams didn't want to play us. And it was kind of crazy that it went that way. But it was like, you know what? We're here to compete at the highest level. It doesn't matter who we're playing.
Well, for me, truthfully, I was in a coffee shop, and this young lady was getting me coffee, and she went to Michigan State, and she was in tears. She goes, just got a call yesterday saying, don't even come back to campus.
Yeah.
And I saw in her face the depression, the sadness, another year of her college life that she would look forward, just like gone, living at home, taking classes in her bedroom online. And I said, I'm not going to do this to these folks until I'm certain that, follow the science, that college kids are going to be really sick or dying from this. And I didn't see it.
No,
I didn't see it. Because we all gave up a lot that if you closed. I mean, you look at alcoholism and drug use.
It was horrible. Yeah, it was horrible.
And we're still not.
No, absolutely not. No.
So it's going to take a long time to run its way through the system.
And to be honest with you, I just found, and not to keep it on this, but like the in-person classes were like the most important thing because it's like I found that like when you're online, it's just so easy to coast. Yeah. When you have someone fully there, and especially at Adrian, where there's only like I had classes where I had 11 people in the class, 12 people in the class, all the way to 30, 35. I mean, I think my biggest class was like 55. Yeah. So it's like that. It was Japanese film, so it's like only like one a day. Like there's only one class a semester, so it's like a lot of people do it.
Sure.
So it's like, but in my eyes, it's like you get held accountable when there's 11, 12 people in the class. Your professor. You can't just skip class and then be like, they're gonna be like, no, Joshua, we know you weren't there. So it's like to have that accountability, it makes you a better student. And like showing up, it's easier to go sit on your computer, half pay attention, have your Netflix on, but you're not, in the long run, you're not benefiting from that.
No, that's exactly right. And I've sat in classes because I went to a college, right?
Yeah,
you had 500-600 students in a class, and no one knew if you were there.
For sure.
Back then, people read newspapers, and so they just opened the newspaper in the middle of class.
What school was that?
That was Michigan State.
Oh, you went to Michigan State? Nice. Nice. What'd you study?
I actually got out in it's broadcast journalism. They called it telecommunications, but a little bit of this, and so I was a reporter for a year when I got out of school.
Wow, I love that. I love that. That's crazy.
Hey, so not shy from the camera.
Swiss Army knife.
Well,
you can do a little bit of everything.
I didn't stay in it, so I don't know. I guess the camera wasn't good to me. They say the camera never blinks. Maybe it needed to blink when I was in
No, I want to ask this. What is... how long do you think you're going to stay here? How long do you think you're going to keep doing this? Like, is retirement a thing to you? Because that's one thing that me and Joshua have talked a lot about where, like, we don't have an idea of, like, when we reach 65, we want to retire. Like, a lot of people think. Like, we're just more so, like, we want to do something forever. So, like, where are you at with that process?
Yeah, so, I'm 62 now. I've been here for 18 years. I'll start my 19th year
You
this
look great,
summer.
by the way, for 62.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
We're going to ask about that as well after.
I appreciate that.
We're going to ask about that after.
I take it year by year, but something's really stuck in the back of my mind that will probably answer this for you. I was at a wedding very early on in my presidency, and I was sitting next to a guy who has advised college presidents for years. It's like an 85-year-old guy, so he had a lot of wisdom, And I said, hey, I just started this presidency. I go, I don't even know what I'm doing yet, What's the biggest mistake that presidents make in colleges and universities? And he looked at me and he goes, that's the easiest question of all. And I go, what is it? What's the answer? And he said, they all stay 2 years too long.
Interesting.
I said, oh, that's interesting. I go, what do you think leads to that? He goes, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
You're grinding every day. Every decision you make, right? You're not positive it's the right decision.
For sure.
People out to get you.
Yeah. There's always going to be people that don't like the decision.
Yeah.
Just how it is, right?
A lot of heat.
Always.
A lot of heat. And he said, and they come to a point where they're like, I've given a lot to this school for a lot of years, taken care of it. Now this school is going to take care of me. Yeah. And they put it in cruise control. And these schools aren't big enough or wealthy enough, as I said earlier, to do that. And the school starts to slide, and the president's just tired. And so my whole thing is, get out before that starts, because I don't want to be that guy that everyone's like, oh, man, it's like the Brett Favre, this is embarrassing.
Absolutely.
Like, someone show this guy the door.
Exactly.
For sure.
So if you weren't doing that, would you do something else if you weren't doing that? Is there something else you have a passion for outside of it?
Maybe coaching might hockey. I've always loved the little guys, but I don't really have many hobbies. I mean, I don't guard, I don't collect stamps or coins, or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
So I probably would have to find something. My wife was telling me a few weeks ago. She's like, you've got to find something when that day comes.
Yeah,
you're not
for
hanging out here, right?
Just find a new passion. It's just a new passion.
Yeah. I'm doing some stuff with a couple of guys that went to Harvard. You may be aware of it, called Rise.
Yeah.
In which we're
I've
trying
heard a little glimpse of that.
What's that?
I've heard a little glimpse of it.
Yeah, right. It's a big deal, because what we're trying to do is get all these small private liberal arts colleges in a place where they're financially secure.
Yeah.
But they can't do it with the business model now. It's too expensive to run these places.
Right.
And so what I learned is, if you create a platform, you can share classes and start new majors without having to hire anybody.
Wow.
And so we just started 24 new majors and really didn't have to hire anyone. And they're all in high-tech fields, healthcare fields that kids want now, because they can make some good dough and pay their loans.
Is it online? Like, you just take the degree online, or is it in person? How does that work?
It's sort of a hybrid. So I'll give you an example. We just started supply chain management.
Oh, that's a great major.
Yeah, right. There's thousands of jobs. Starting salary now, like 75, 80 grand.
Yeah.
And there's a school out in Boston called LaSalle that teaches it. And we said, hey, we have students that want to take those 5 classes in addition to their business classes to major in this. Would you share them with us? And they're like, for sure. And so they share those with us. Those are online, but it's 5 classes over 4 years. No problem, students. And then they take all their core business classes and their their electives and all of that. But we've done that now with web design. We've done it with cybersecurity. I mean, it's the way of the future.
That's a brilliant move. That's a brilliant move, because you think about it, and I'm speaking from like my perspective. When I was in school and taking 15, 18 credits, I would always plan to have at least one online class with my in-person, because sometimes it's just like time crunch. I want to work on the weekends. Like,
what about athletics?
I was going to say the sports.
100%.
I'm missing classes all the time. I'm traveling with baseball. Like, I can get in when I can get in, and that's like perfect. Five online classes over 4 years. Like, you won't even notice.
That's where the online classes are supposed to be benefited in. I think where it's like they're slid into your already classes. And honestly, I took a sales class that was through Adrian, but it was like, I don't know if it was in the same program, but it was for Western Michigan.
Oh yeah, that was the same program.
Exactly.
And so
was
it all right?
Yeah, it was. To be honest with you, the professor who did it was probably one of the best professors. I learned so much from him. Yeah. And when I had talked to people at Western Michigan, they were like, "Oh, that guy's the man." So I was like, it was like that was like you got the guy who was like, my friends at Western, they were like, that's the last class you take. And I took that as a senior early, and I was like, man, I learned so much, but I was already like doing sales stuff for my internship. So it's like they paired up so well. I was like, man, I was like learning shit at school, and I was like, not always does school and the real world line up. Yeah. Whereas in that scenario, he was very in sales, where he tied it in very well.
And we've tried to do that with all these majors. And so even the classes that we're getting in supply chain, we went out to Harry's Razors, and we said, what, they're a big supply chain.
Right.
And we went out to Ryder. We said, what do you want students to know?
Yeah.
Like, let's write this curriculum and make it
For
great.
sure. That's,
And you probably took one of the very early classes then that we did this. I heard those sales classes were so good. Literally, kids not in the class would say, hey, can I just like watch this with
you?
No,
they were
you know what I mean? Me too.
I had a friend who's like at Western. He was like, bro, you took that class, right? I like, is it the last project is like, it's no joke. It's actually a tough project.
Capstone.
Like the capstone of it. So it's like it was a tough project, and it took a lot of time to do it, because they like give you this scenario, and it's like you're basically building a sales plan for this big resort, which is a doozy of a work, but it's cool.
It's
and
real
like,
life, man.
It's life, and I think that's
a skill set.
It's such a skill set.
Are you trying to work in more like real life stuff into the curriculum? Because I think that's 100%. Important. Where like I think in this, obviously like back in the day, but before I was born, it was like go to college, that's how you get a good job, and then you're kind of like cushy with the pension, right? And now college has gotten watered down, where it's like the education, just because you got a degree doesn't mean you get a job.
That's right.
So like, how are you trying to incorporate like real life stuff into the curriculum to actually teach these kids, because education is everything. But I think we have to kind of change how we're teaching the education.
You nailed it, man. That's exactly right. And students now say they're really looking for two things when they go to college, and this has changed a ton. Yeah. 30 years ago, they said they were looking for a better meaning of life, and that's fine. But they weren't taking on 40 or 50 grand in debt either. Then.
Absolutely.
So now they're looking for cost, what's affordable, and practical skill sets. Because we're hearing it from both sides. Students are getting out of college and feeling like, whoa, I thought I was ready because I took a bunch of classes, but I didn't learn what I need to learn, you know? And frankly, the bosses on the business side are saying, look, you've got to get kids that can come in, and I don't need 2 years to amp them up, to teach them what we need them to do. Yeah. So that's been a really big push, is a more practical application of skills. And we're trying to do that through this program and some of our other things at Adrian. Cool. The other thing, we have a big goal that I think we should be able to do with this new sort of hybrid RISE initiative that we've started here, is bring down the cost of education, and each year dial things back just a little bit. It just can't keep going up. That's why the business model is broken.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's just the what is it, like, the opportunity cost just isn't there. Like, to go $100 grand in debt and then you get a job for $50K with
it doesn't work.
6% interest rates, like, it's just it
doesn't work.
It's the rat race, right? And I think that would be super important. But as we kind of wind down this talk, which I've actually enjoyed, what is like your 5-year plan? Like, whether you're going to be here for 5 years, I'm not putting that out there, but like 5-year plan, like at Adrian, like, what would you like to do and see happen?
Yeah, I still think we need to grow. We're right around 1,800 when the year starts, maybe 1,850, but after, midterm graduation, some of the other things will dip down. So I think we need to be a school of about 2,000, 2,100. I think there needs to be more graduate programs. Graduate programs are terrific now, and so that will be part of it. I think we need, frankly, an indoor sports arena, either a bubble. Bubbles have gotten much better. Initially, I said no to the bubble. I know a bubble blew down at Eastern Michigan at one point. I said, I don't want any part of that.
It took like a year and a half to put back up.
It
was crazy.
We moved quicker at Adrian. Our bubble blew down. But these things have changed. In fact, we just had a company the other day that said Tiger Woods just built one on his property, and they could make it strong enough to face a hurricane. So we went with this company. So we may do a bubble. We may do steel frame. It depends on money.
I mean, that bubble will only help the sports as well.
Yeah,
it'll help all sports.
Well, the weather's tough, right? In Michigan,
you have to have an indoor. And like, even speaking, back at Eastern, we used to practice in the bubble to like get ready for like our season, and we used to do 5 a.m. practices. But like, the bubble can only be so much. And this is maybe the technology is different now, but the bubble can only be so much like warmer than what it is outside to like start deflating. So we would practice at 6 a.m. in the freezing cold winter. It'd be 10 degrees in the bubble, but it's just no wind, right? Yeah. But even having that like allowed us to still get reps. You see the ball, you can throw, you can long toss, you can still do everything you need to do. It's just in a bubble. And so like at Adrian, I would encourage you to do that.
Oh, it's a done deal. I mean, we're going to do it. It's going to be big enough for rugby and lacrosse and soccer.
That'll be huge.
Football practice, because sideways snow and rain is rough when you're playing lacrosse in March.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. We're going to build a rugby pitch. Rugby is taking off at Adrian.
Yes.
I've noticed that.
It's big on the East Coast. I will say, since we've moved out to like New York, New Jersey. Yeah. Rugby leagues. I have my coworkers played rugby, so there's definitely a market.
It's been big. It was on the coast because when I was in BC, there was massive rugby, like huge on the West Coast. So it's like it's definitely
super entertaining. I watched my first games last year.
Wow, it's
these are like
no
athletes.
Joke. Yeah, there's no joke.
No, that's right.
It's football with no pads.
That's exactly what it is.
It's
You're right.
Crazy.
So those two facilities are big. We're actually going to do something in the ice arena. You'll like this.
Oh, I like this.
We're going to put a alumni lounge in with a loge box and a film room. And,
can't hate that.
Place for the boys to hang out and the women as well, because it'll be for both. And we've actually just finished in recent weeks the academic side of the house. So all academic buildings have been redone. I don't want to make this sound like it's all about sports. I mean, we did an art gallery. That was our last building. And then we do have some dorms that need help. And the issue with dorms is just hard to find donors to do dorms. People don't want to donate to a community restaurant.
Dorms aren't sexy. A new ice rink, that's sexy. It's easier to barely a little easier to sell. Sure. But I want to ask one more thing, because when I was at Adrian all the time, skiing in the gym, How important is health to you? Like getting in the gym, staying active, because Zach and I were avid up 5 a.m. working out. Like how important is it, especially as you get older, like to stay healthy? Because you're in shape, you're looking good.
That's nice of you to say. Yeah. For me, a couple of things go into it for me. One is you got to make it an appointment. Like it's got to be like, I don't know, eating, lunch or something.
It's like brushing your teeth. That's what I tell people. It's like
it's got to be. Yeah. Number two, it's got to be a habit. Once you're like, take a couple weeks off and getting back in is brutal. But more to the point for I guess for my life, the average length of time for a college president is 5.2 years before they move on. And I'm heading down, finishing up 18. And I've asked myself, why have I been able to hang in there, right? And I hope this doesn't sound like I'm pumping my own tires here, but
you're allowed to.
Okay, well, thank you. But there's two things that I would say have really allowed me to hang in there. One is I do protect my sleep. Yeah. I mean, I'm big on sleep.
Yeah.
And the second thing is I protect working out. And to be honest with you, boys, every day that I go, I don't want to go. If I could just take a pill, give me the pill, man.
Oh my
for sure.
God. I tell Joshua that every day.
But I think that's the difference, though. That's why I was telling Zachary, and I was just telling him, like, looking good is the currency that you can't buy. You can't buy looking like can't buy it.
That's right.
So it's like when people look at you, they're like, "Damn, this guy's disciplined." Like it's a different. You see someone who's unhealthy, and you're just like, they don't have that same appeal of like, "Damn, like this guy's grinding at every aspect of life they're trying to win at." And I think that's something.
It goes back to the thing I think we said earlier about people are so smart, so much more intelligent than we realize with picking out the phonies.
Absolutely.
And they say within the blink of an eye we can take in so much information about human beings. And one of them is this person healthy? Is this person somebody I believe in? Is this somebody who's doing the right thing?
For sure.
And so we all fall short, right? We all fall short a lot, but we're doing the best we can.
It's all about just getting back up and trying it again, right?
That's right. It's
a daily thing, but Doc, I
really appreciate you
you
coming out.
This
was a great. If we come back to Adrian, we'll have to get you back on.
This
was a great.
Anytime. I've loved it.
This is a great time.
Thank you.
All right,
man.
man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I never had to tell my dogs